I don't understand how it works, but I understand how it works. You know what I mean? And it's awful. And then I spend the next 6 months trying to like regrow my butt. I don't know. I'm a woman. We get yeast infections. What do you want? So I've seen all these people online freaking out about cultured or lab-grown meat. And I think it's interesting to see the omnivores freaking out about this. I think it was Florida just said they were going to ban lab-grown and cultured meat. So I thought, why not talk about it? The last time I did one of these visual podcast style videos, you guys really seemed to like it. So I thought, why not have a discussion again about something that I find really interesting and I think you probably find interesting as well. So imagine it's like 2035 and you're at a barbecue and you've brought like your veggie burgers. Actually, I don't even think it's gonna take as long as 2025, but I digress. You've got your veggie burgers, you've got like your corn or pasta salad, and you see your like fellow vegan friend flip what looks like a steak and burgers, but not like your regular veggie burgers. And you go up to them and you're like, what's the deal? And they're like, oh my God, you need to try this lab-grown steak. Like, what would your response be? What would my response be? Is that in line with who we are as vegans? I don't know. Let's discuss. Where do we start? Lab-grown meat is produced by culturing cells in a controlled lab environment without the need for raising and slaughtering animals. Advances in biotechnology are predicting that lab-grown meat will, with at least the next decade, actually be accessible and affordable and competitively priced and placed with traditional meat. So this is like a very real and feasible reality, this example that I just made of going to a barbecue and seeing your vegan friend eating a steak. So how did they do it? The cells typically now are harvested from a live animal in a biopsy. So that's like a minimally invasive procedure that doesn't cause any harm to the animal. So the cultures do have to come from an animal. There is a host or donor animal. Biopsies, yes, generally minimally invasive depending on where they are, but if you're a woman and you've ever had a biopsy, whether it's in your breast or cervix, uterus, whatever, they're quite painful. So there's some ethics there. It's a bit subjective, I think, when they say like minimally invasive or pain-free. But according to a pioneer in this field, this industry, Dr. Mark Post, he does say that just a small sample can produce thousands of pounds of cultured meat, which means that this process could lead to eliminating the need for, again, raising and slaughtering livestock. My initial question when reading up on this was like, where do these donor animals come from? And I'm sure that a lot of you guys have that same kind of question. And like, how much are needed? Obviously, if one small sample gives you thousands of pounds, then only a few are needed. They're also currently working on ways to create more cells from the cells that they already have, eliminating the need for any animal after the initial donor animal. According to lifescience.com and nature.com, ideally the cell donor animals would be living in a humane and ethical, kind of pasture-based, farm-raised system. Again, I don't trust capitalists, so I'm just gonna throw that out there. Those animals then create the cells that would be used in the lab-grown meat process. Since such a single sample can create so much meat, repeated sampling of one donor animal, they're saying is likely unnecessary. Once those cells are cultured, like I said before, they can continue to multiply and grow many times, producing a substantial amount of lab-grown meat, and then potentially allowing for a single sample to lead to the production of thousands upon thousands of pounds of meat from a single sample. Now that we've got the weird like science out of the way that like really I don't know a ton about, but you know, I did my reading, so I don't understand how it works, but I understand how it works. You know what I mean? Before we get into the ethics of lab-grown meat, let's talk about something that's always vegan. Compliments. You guys know that I've been working with Compliment now for the better part of, I don't know, like a year and a half maybe. I love them. They're amazing. They make an everyday vegan like multivitamin called Compliment Essentials. They have a protein powder that I'm obsessed with, and they've just come out with their own creatine. I've been working out for a good part of my life, despite not always loving it, and I've been supplementing with creatine for years. So when they came out with a creatine, I was so excited that I could also support them with my creatine use. If you don't know what creatine is, it is one of the most researched supplements out there. There is a ridiculous amount of research for creatine. While creatine is often marketed towards those that are bodybuilders or really into fitness, and like for those people that are looking for, you know, fast recovery with their workouts, more power, more strength, more resilience, I also just think it's good for everyone. It does have broader applications for everyone, but also vegans and vegetarians. Because depending on how you eat, if you're not counting your macros, maybe you're getting less of this in your diet than you need. So how is it good for the everyday person? Well, it helps support brain function, helps with cell regeneration and energy. It can help improve cognitive focus and memory, which is something I have been very careful about because I am on so many ADHD supplements. And for overall brain function, like who doesn't need a little bit of help with that? We're all a little bit sleep deprived and overstressed. What I love about theirs is that it is created with pure creatine monohydrate. So it is the purest form of creatine. So that's perfect for like optimal performance, absorption, and efficacy, which if you're gonna pay money for a supplement, you want it to be helpful. Or else why are we doing this? So if you are someone that is looking to improve their workout or you're just trying to stay mentally sharp and focused, there is a link in the description box down below for more information on them and all the other supplements that I use from them. And you can get 15% off any order that you make. I love them. They're great. They've been a sponsor for a while and we love that they support the Edgy Veg. So what are the lab-grown meat ethics as a vegan? Well, I'd say that depends on why you're vegan. Some people are vegan for health reasons. Some people are vegan for the environment. Others are vegan for ethics. There's a number of reasons why people are vegan or plant-based. If you are an ethical vegan like I am, you live your lifestyle trying to avoid animal harm as much as possible. I would say lab-grown meat kind of fixes that. It definitely ticks that box. It does for me. Are there donor animals? Yes. But does that donor animal fix a problem that will then help billions and billions of animals over time? Absolutely. And so I think that is the best way to do the least amount of harm possible, especially since the vegan philosophy is about minimizing harm and maximizing compassion. And I think this is a much more compassionate way for people to have meat because realistically, people are never gonna go 100% vegan. That's just not a thing that's going to happen in reality. So giving them another option that is free of suffering and torture and just like the horrible conditions that they have to go through, I think is amazing. I know that a few animals are needed initially, but over time that need is going to go away, ideally. I don't know, but ideally, and in the perfect world of how this is going to roll out, that's what they're saying. So while lab-grown meat does align with the core values that I have as an ethical vegan, I think for many, it's going to require a philosophical shift in their thinking before they're going to accept it 100%. Like, would I eat it? No, I don't think so. I think my need and my taste for meat is totally gone at this point. It kind of just grosses me out, the whole idea of it. So I don't think I would personally eat it, but I do love that there is a more compassionate option for those that do choose to eat meat. Okay, what if you're not vegan for ethical reasons? What if you're vegan for health reasons? Well, you are in luck. Because they're suggesting that lab-grown cultured meat is actually supposed to be more healthful and safer for you than traditionally farmed and slaughtered animal meat. Because lab-grown meat is grown in a lab, it is grown in a sterile, clean, controlled environment. So you get rid of that like high risk of pathogens like E. coli that often happens with cross-contamination. Like one burger, if you get like a commercially store-bought burger, there's like hundreds of different animals in that. Like it's beef, but it's like hundreds of different cows. And so that whole like cross-contamination and that like amalgamation of different types of meats from different things, that can cause a lot of problems and is also the reason why they have to clean a lot of meat with like bleaching agents and blah, blah, blah. So you kind of remove the need for that. Plus, lab-grown meat can be engineered to contain an optimal amount of nutrients. Like you're getting everything that you need at a really high quality, which would make it a lot healthier of an option. Lab-grown meat also would not need the addition of growth hormones and antibiotics that so many farmed animals get in order to produce more and more and more meat. It also helps reduce the risk of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which is a current public health concern because there is so many antibiotics put into the meat that people are eating. The overuse is an ongoing problem that I don't think enough people are talking about. I don't eat meat, so I don't take in a lot of antibiotics from, well, I don't. taken any antibiotics from farmed animal products because I don't eat them. So anytime I get sick and I need an antibiotic, it like ruins my system because so many people are resistant to antibiotics because they're getting them all the time. So when someone like me and you that takes antibiotics because they get the flu or for whatever reason, I don't know, it can really mess with your system, and it's definitely done that for me. And according to the World Health Organization, antibiotic resistance is one of the greatest threats to global health, food security, and development right now. So I don't know, seems like a no-brainer to me. All right, so what if you're not vegan for ethics, you're not vegan for health, like you couldn't really give a shit, but you are vegan for the environment? A study by the Oxford University found that cultured meat could generate up to 96% fewer greenhouse gases than conventional meat production and uses 99% less land and 96% less water. Plus, less land needed for livestock means more space for forests, wildlife, and it puts less strain on our precious dwindling water supply. So lab-grown meat and the shift towards lab-grown meat can help us preserve ecosystems and protect biodiversity. Again, what are the ethics as a vegan? It does depend on why you're vegan. For me personally, I'm all for it. With some caveats in place, I am all for it. Would I eat it? Like I said, probably not, but I'm glad that there is a sustainable, humane meat, which is something that people talk about, you know, this is a humane farm. There is no humane way to slaughter an animal. There's no ethical way to slaughter an animal, but there is a way to ethically consume meat with lab-grown meat products. And lab-grown dairy is next. I mean, there is a company called, I think it's called Robot Heart, and they make lab-grown dairy ice cream, which I have not had the pleasure of trying yet because I live in Canada and they're from the States, but I totally would. And as someone who, you know, the hardest thing to give up was dairy because I love cheese, that's something that I would probably eat again if I could get a lab-grown version of it. But I'm curious to know like what other people are thinking. I know a lot of people that eat meat are up in arms about it. They say it's unnatural, but I would argue that the current way of factory farming is also unnatural. The way that we eat and the food system that we already have in place is very unnatural. It is so far from natural. Even things like produce and vegetables. Like if you're like, I'm eating ancestrally and you go to the grocery store and you buy your vegetables, a lot of those are genetically modified because that's how we feed the world. And there are also species of that fruit or vegetable that did not exist before human intervention. So the way that we farm, the way that we cultivate, the way that we package the food, the way that we produce food and, you know, ship it around the world, and the way that we cook it and we eat it, none of it is natural. So I really do think that the concept of natural eating is totally out the window. Lab-grown meat is just, you know, it's another food that we make in a lab, like so many foods that we already do, that is going to eliminate the need for animal suffering. But again, what do you think? All right, guys, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like these types of like visual podcasts, kind of talking about different topics, and you want to see more of that, let me know. If you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, you can also leave that in the comment section. And don't forget to check out Complement and their amazing products, including their new creatine. I'm gonna leave links to my favorite supplements in the description box down below. You will also find links there and the code Edgy Veg for 15% off your order. Please go support them. I love my sponsors, and I know that you're gonna love them as much as I do. Okay, bye.